My name is Seth Leblond, and I am the Assistive Technology Coordinator at the Foundation for Blind Children. This is the first in what we hope will become many live interactive seminars concerning technology. We also are doing some YouTube videos. So far, we've had a goal of making one video either live or pre-recorded each month. So this is the first of our live videos, and there will be more to come. We're planning one for April as well. So stay tuned for information about that. Shortly, we're also hoping to begin releasing very short videos that describe a concept in a really succinct way. We know that you guys as teachers are not real flush with time. So we want to make sure that we are respecting your time and that when you are learning from us, that you're using your time wisely. So more about that on the MLB listserv to come. Today, we want to talk about JAWS and Fusion. When I first started in this role, working with the MLB program, I sent out some survey questions to a sort of an informal survey to the MLB list and asked about some things that maybe some teachers who are associated with our MLB program or who are itinerant teachers here might be struggling with, or that their students are struggling with. Our first video that we produced last month was about connecting Braille displays with JAWS and with iOS devices, because that was a thing that was commented on a lot. But really some frustrations were expressed with working with JAWS and Fusion. And I wanted to come on today and give some tips for how to work with your students on JAWS and Fusion. So I'm going to go ahead and initiate a screen share.
Leaving menus, Fusion Professional.
Okay. So I have Fusion running on my system right now, and you should be able
button collapsed to activate, press space bar
to hear my my computer now. So as you can hear,
Windows M,
this
Windows D, folder view, list view, not
has a
selected,
pretty robotic
PC.
voice. And I want to start today by talking about a couple of things that I want to make sure that we have in place and we know how to do before our kids are actually starting with JAWS. So one of the most important questions that we can ask as teachers who are working on technology with students at really any age, what did JAWS just say? My experience in technology tells me that JAWS comprehension, or lack thereof, is the number one initial stumbling block for people learning JAWS. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One of those reasons is that we have this robot voice talking, and people aren't used to hearing that, especially in today's age of you've got your Alexa devices and your Google devices and all this stuff. Sorry if I just activated anyone's A-lady. But this voice,
Seth Leblond, 2 of 14.
That's not the kind of voice that we're used to hearing today. When that voice came out, by the way, which was after I started using a computer, so that should tell you something. We were all excited because this voice sounded so much more human than anything that we had used before that.
FBC at support, 3 of 14.
Okay, so the first thing that I like to try to do with students is to change the JAWS voice to something a little bit more human sounding. I want to stop here to just mention, you're going to hear me use the words JAWS and Zoom text quite a bit today. I want to make it very clear that really there are really only two products involved here. There's JAWS and there's Zoom text. Fusion is actually JAWS and Zoom text functioning together. So anything that I talk to you about JAWS is going to apply to Fusion. And anything that we talk about regarding Zoom text also applies to Fusion. So try not to get too confused when I use those terms. The reason it's important to sort of understand um, that we're using JAWS and Zoom text too is that we actually have two different settings areas. We have a settings area for magnification, and we're at 2x magnification, by the way, in case you wanted to know, that we can access with Control Caps Lock U.
Fusion Professional Magnifier tab.
This brings up a window full of magnification settings that we can change to alter virtually any aspect of how our screen appears. If we want to access speech settings, though, with Fusion, what we really want to do is an Insert J.
JAWS context menu.
And now we have the JAWS context menu that comes up and gives us access to the speech-related options. So it literally is two programs because there's two sets of settings and two user interfaces that are actually operating together.
Options submenu O.
So I'm going to go to the options submenu and I'm going to open that. And I'm going to go down to where it says Voices.
Submenu V. Enter.
Open
Voice
this dialog.
V. Enter.
Voice
Leaving menus.
adjustment.
Voice adjustment dialog. Profile name : combo box. Eloquence.
The very first thing we have here is the profile name, and this profile name is Eloquence, and that is the speech synthesizer that we are working with right now, the one that you're hearing. It's called Eloquence, and it is made by the makers of JAWS. Well, at least initially was. When we want to select a different kind of voice, what we really want to do, where we want to start at least, is we want to change the voice profile. If we use the Eloquence voice profile, unfortunately, all we really get is a whole bunch of different pitched robotic voices. So if we want our kids to be able to understand JAWS a little bit better, we want to move on to the human sounding voices. There's a little list here, and I'm going to go down to vocalizer.
Sappy 5.
Vocalizer expressive dash left paren factory right paren 5.
Okay, now vocalizer expressive is a voice package that comes with JAWS. So we've selected the voice profile by arrowing to it in this combo box, and we actually don't need to press enter on it. We can just tab over to change some of the settings, and I want to show you quickly how that works.
Enable additional voice profiles for installed vocalizer expressive 2 voices checkbox checked to clear.
There are a lot of settings in here, and I'm going to skip most of them just so you're aware. I want to make good use of our time, and some of these things we'll cover in additional trainings. I'm going to actually move over to the person combo box.
Synthesize, speak sample, voice adjust, voice person : combo box. Allison Premium High.
So this is Allison. I think she sounds a little uptight. And I'm going to actually, we're going to take a look at some of these other voices here in this list.
Ava Premium High - United States, 2 of 9.
Ava Premium High, that means high quality.
Nathan Premium High - United States, 3.
Samantha Premium High - United States, 4. Susan Premium High - United States, 5.
Tom Premium High - United States. Tom Compact - United States, 7 of 9.
Zoe Premium High - United States, 8 of 9. Zoe Compact - United States.
So as you can see, we have a choice of voices, and we can download others, actually. These are just the ones that happen to be on my system right now. So they all have sort of different qualities. You know, I think that Nathan sounds a little nasally, and there is no perfect voice, but I encourage you to work with your students to find the voice that they feel they can understand the best. Right now, all of my students are preferring Ava.
Alice Ava Premium High - United States, 2 of 9.
She's chill, right? So we're gonna change that. We're gonna look at a couple of other settings here that can make JAWS easier to understand, particularly for people who are just starting out. We're gonna go
Voice
ahead.
100 left right slider, 14%.
Now, that is our speech rate. And so we can make it slower, we can make it faster. This seems like it's a fairly conversational tone. As you get more experience with JAWS, you can listen to it at higher and higher rates. I actually encourage students to try to push themselves to understand the speech rate at higher and higher rates for the same reason that we try to get students to become faster and faster readers. The faster you can listen to JAWS, the more efficiently you can get through your emails and listen to things that are happening on your computer. So when students get really comfortable, I try to tend to like push them a little bit out of that comfort zone to try to be able to use their voices a little bit faster. Who doesn't want to be a faster reader, right? Okay, so that's our rate.
Voice punctuation : combo box. Most 3
now,
of 4.
This is a setting that I actually do tend to change for beginner JAWS users. Right now it's set on most, and that's why it said voice :
voice punctuation : combo box.
right? Well, sometimes it's really helpful to know that that colon is there, but actually not so much when you're tabbing through a dialog box. And also, maybe it's too many words for someone who is just learning how to hear JAWS. We can talk about the importance of having most or all punctuation set up when we're doing proofreading. But when you have a kid in school who is just trying to read for like comprehension, it can be a little over verbose to have punctuation being read while they're trying to read a story. So I'm going to change this to some, and it will read some punctuation, but as you see, the change has already taken effect. And
voice 100 left right. Voice punctuation combo box. Some 2 of 4.
And we got rid of a word there. And it's a word that can be confusing, and is often unnecessary in certain situations. These are suggestions. These aren't things you have to do, but we're trying to simplify this process a little bit for everybody. So we're going to move on here.
Voice spell rate. Voice. Okay. Save. Okay.
And we are going to hit OK.
Make default voice profile dialog. Do you want to make vocalizer expressive the default voice profile? Yes button.
Now it wants to know if we want to make this the default voice profile. That means, do we want this to be the thing that loads right now? Do we want it to be the thing that loads when we start up JAWS? In this case, we're going to say yes, because, okay, now we've got our theoretical fictitious kiddo here, and they've chosen this voice, and we've limited the punctuation a little bit. We don't want to have to go in and make this change every time. So we're going to say yes.
Fusion Professional. Magnifier tab. Zoom windows. Window button collapsed.
Okay, how do you guys feel? Does that sound a little bit better to anyone than what we were listening to before? Not much of a difference. You hate it? How do we feel about it?
It's not bad. It works for me.
All right, cool. All right. Now, we've got this thing talking the way that we want it. Now, if we have a student who is going to look at the screen as well, the next thing that we need to do is we need to have it looking like we want it. The rule that I like to apply to magnification is that you should always try to set up your magnification so that it is at the smallest level that you can see comfortably. Smallest and comfortably are the key words there. We don't want you to have to strain your eyes too much, but the smaller we can tolerate the magnification level, the more screen area we can see at one time. Right now we have our magnification level, I believe,
2.2.
2x. So we can see a lot of the screen area at one time. We don't have to do,
Magnifier.
let's see, we don't have to do too much scrolling. Okay, we can scroll the screen around. Yeah, you can do that with the keyboard. You don't have to use the mouse. Did you guys see the screen scrolling there a little bit? It's fully zoomed out for everyone else. Gosh darn. Well, that's unfortunate.
Quick access. Magnifier tab. Magnifier.
That's good to know. I didn't realize that it doesn't show the magnified view during a screen share. That is good to know.
2.25.
So that's going to change how we proceed a little bit. What I was just doing was scrolling the screen using keyboard shortcuts. The keyboard shortcuts to scroll the screen are to press and hold the caps lock and shift keys, and then to use the arrow keys in whatever direction you want to scroll. And the more often you press those arrow keys, the faster the scrolling will happen. The reason why for reading, I kind of tend to recommend that you learn those keyboard shortcuts is because it's a little easier to move straight than it is to move with a mouse, especially for someone who has vision issues. Like one of the things that can be hardest for people who are using screen magnification is tracking. And if you just kind of grab the mouse and you kind of move it around the screen, it can move diagonally. It can kind of just start going up the hill or down the hill a little bit. When you use the keyboard shortcuts to scroll the screen, you can actually make it move straight up, straight down, straight right, straight left. Once you have the magnification level set how you want it,
2.2.75.
and you can see there's a lot of options here. You go 2, 2.25, 2.5,
2.75, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5.
And as we go higher, you'll see the increments
6, 7, 8
are larger. Zoom text goes all the way up to 60x. Now, I know you guys can't see my screen magnified, which is super unfortunate, but at 60x, Zoom text is not useful to anyone. It used to go up to 32x, and I used to tell people at 32 it's not useful. The higher the magnification is, the less useful it becomes, because you just get to the point where you're seeing such a small screen area at one time that tracking just becomes almost impossible. I know that it sounds cool to say you get 60x magnification, but I don't know of a single individual that I have ever met that is successfully using Zoom text much higher than 10 or 12x. And even that, it takes a lot of practice. So be mindful as well. If your students are really at a really super high magnification level, they're probably really struggling, and they may end up just being a JAWS user. Now, in addition to the magnification level, we have a whole bunch of color enhancements. We can activate color enhancements with a caps lock C.
Color enhancements enabled.
It says color enhancements enabled. Now on my screen, this has the effect of turning it to an inverted brightness scheme. I was going to go through some of these schemes with you guys today, but it's not going to really help out if you can't see what is on my screen. The inverted brightness basically is kind of like looking at the dark theme on your phone. I don't know if any of you have ever messed around with that, but it kind of makes the things that were once bright dark, and the things that were once dark bright. So it's like an inverted contrast. Zoom text does have this really cool feature that they've recently started rolling out, and it's called smart inversion, I think is what it's called. And what it does is it actually it can detect in HTML content whether something is an image or not, and it will not invert the image that it detects. So it still inverts the contrast on everything around it, but the picture looks normal instead of looking like a picture negative that you wouldn't want to look at. They claim that they are in development of that feature for other apps, but right now it's really for like Google Chrome and Internet Explorer 11. If you are still using Internet Explorer 11, please stop. Yeah. So, yeah. We also have the ability to enhance the mouse pointer size, shape,
Magnifier.
and color.
Quick
We have the
access bar
ability
button
to
to activate.
change the cursor. Once we get it all set up, the thing that we want to do as well is actually save the configuration, and we can
Talk
do
to
that.
Zoom text button. Magnifier window button. Open the Zoom Windows dialog box. Screen and hit pointer split. Cursor split. Focus split. Open the screen and navigation. Navigate Fusion menu button collapsed.
Right here at
to
the Fusion
activate.
menu. So we can go down through this
menu. Screen shade insert plus help and learning configuration submenu. C. Save as default.
And we can hit this button for save as default.
Enter. Leaving menus. Fusion 2022 dialog. Are you sure you want to save the current Fusion settings as your default settings? Yes.
And then again, yes, I do want to save them as the default because again, we spent all this time working with our student to find what the appropriate magnification level is, what the appropriate look is for their mouse pointer and their cursor. We've done all this work. We do not want to set this up every time. So the default configuration,
Enter Fusion Professional,
is the one that will start every time you turn Fusion on. But if you have computers that are shared computers, there's a couple of pieces of good news. First of all of these are user specific. So if you log into the computer as a different user, you can set up a default profile for whoever that user is. If, on the other hand, everyone logs onto the computer with the same username and password, you can actually save configuration files that are user specific that you can load as soon as you open Zoom Text. So we can go here.
Screen help and configuration submenu.
We have this submenu.
Save as open default. Restore factory to save custom configuration. Open custom configuration.
So we have these custom configurations. Save custom configuration is if Dustin and I both log into the same computer with the same username and password, but Dustin likes the inverted brightness and I don't, and I only need a 2x magnification and he needs 5x, and we've got all these different settings. We can create a configuration file for me and one for him, and as soon as we start the program, we can choose which one we want to open. So we have a lot of ability, if you're working with multiple students, to make sure that the program is configured to be able to work best for all of our students. Do we have any questions about anything that I have talked about so far? And again, I apologize for not having considered that screen share would not show you the video as I see it on my screen. That is unfortunate.
There are no questions in the chat and no hands raised.
All right. Dustin tells me there's no questions in the chat, no hands raised. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Now we've got our magnification set up the way that we want it, and we've got JAWS set up the way that we want it. We've got our voice perfect. The next thing, and now we're starting to get our degree of difficulty is increasing, because the next really important piece is to get your students as proficient with keyboarding as possible. I don't care what you have to do it, but I would say that lack of proficiency with the keyboard is absolutely one of the most important reasons why people struggle with JAWS. The reason is
Leaving menus. Search box ORD. Enter. Opening. Opening word. Document one word. Print view.
the reason is if we are trying to teach a student or work with a student on a particular concept, and we ask them to press one key and they press another one, it's not just that they didn't press the right key, it's that they pressed the wrong one. And now, instead of actually being able to work on the concept, we now have to focus on undoing the thing they accidentally did before we can get started on the thing that we wanted them to do in the first place. Typically, in my experience, this causes a lot of confusion for people because they're not sure what they're supposed to do because we didn't actually spend the class learning what we wanted them to learn. We spent the class undoing what we didn't want them to work on. If in my opinion, it is a good idea for everyone, no matter how much vision they have, to learn to touch type. If you're a visual computer user, that means you don't have to shift the focus of your eyes between the keyboard and the screen. You can sort of stay focused on the screen while you're typing. And of course, if you have changing lighting conditions, or you're doing your homework in your bedroom and you're doing your schoolwork in the classroom, and it doesn't matter that they have totally different lighting and totally different contrast, and you have different keyboards at school versus at home, you always know how to type. I do think that large print keyboards can be a good tool to help get kids who tend to be visual learners familiar with the keyboard, but the goal is to kind of wean them off of that so that they can become good touch typists. There's a couple of programs that we use here at FBC. We use Talking Typer from APH, which is it has its little annoying quirks, but it does teach you how to type. And then we also use an online tool called Typing Club, which has some really good tracking tools, and it's got some great features that allow you to really get into the weeds about how your students are doing with typing. And of course, since it's automated, you don't have to be, worrying about, hovering over your student's shoulder the whole time when they're learning how to type. But keyboarding is very important. If your students have motor difficulties that make it difficult for them to be able to type, then you can investigate getting a program like JSay, which is essentially a suite of very complicated JAWS scripts, and that allow JAWS to work effectively with Dragon software. I don't know if any of you have a lot of experience with Dragon, but ultimately it's not a blindness tool, right? It's really a tool for people that have motor control difficulties. I personally think it's easier to use a computer without Dragon if you have control of your motor functions. But if you don't, then JSay and Dragon can sort of help everything kind of work together. The other possibility, if you do have kiddos with motor control difficulties, is they might not be able to type very effectively, but they might be able to use the control keys like your Alt and your arrow keys and Tab and stuff like that. If you can get them to a point where they can do that, then they can actually use something like, just even the dictation that's built into Windows. It's not great for giving commands to your computer, but it's fairly adept with typing. And as long as you can, use some of the keyboard controls, that can be more efficient than using Dragon. So I guess it's like on a case by case basis if you are dealing with students that have the motor control issues. But accuracy of input is very, very important.
Escape.
If I meant to hit a control V, but I hit a control B. So control V, who can tell me? What does control V do? Somebody know that keyboard shortcut?
Copy.
Close.
Oh, I'm sorry. Paste.
Paste. I knew you knew it, Garrett.
C is copy. Sorry.
Yeah, C is copy. And V is paste. Now B is bold.
Bold on.
Okay. Now all
Bold
these
off.
keys are right next to each other on the keyboard. If I'm trying to hit a control V,
Pasted from clipboard. Blank.
and
Select.
I hit a control C,
Nothing select.
if something actually is selected, I'm actually going to replace what's in the clipboard. And that's super frustrating because now I actually have to go select the thing I wanted to copy in the first place again. If, on the other hand, I hit a control B and I bold everything, when really what I wanted to do is paste, then we've got to turn bold off, which is another control B,
Bold
and then
off.
we can go ahead and paste. So we can waste like a lot of time in class just by pressing the wrong key. If someone tells you to press a key combination, you should be able to do it. It's one thing to like forget what hotkey does which thing. But to not be able to locate the keys on the keyboard is definitely makes learning how to use JAWS very difficult.
Alt F4. Save your changes to this file. File name. Alt N. Alt followed by F. Fusion Professional.
Okay.
Fusion.
Here we are back in Fusion.
One reminder S. To MLB Technology Training Microsoft Teams. MLB Technology Training Microsoft Teams.
Okay. Now, so you've got your voice how you want it. You've got your magnification how you want it, and you have worked with your kid enough to so that they have a fair amount of accuracy with the keyboard. By the way, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I value accuracy above speed very much. I would rather have a student type at 10 words per minute with 95% accuracy than 40 words per minute with 75% accuracy, right? I want them to be able to hit the key they want whenever they want it, and I will gladly wait a little extra time for them to find it. So our student now is able to type, and we've got this whole thing set up the way that we want it. Now, we have to learn some of the syntax of JAWS. And by syntax, I really mean, how does JAWS say things? How does it represent information to us? JAWS uses some words that we've never really thought about before. Okay. When I go to the desktop.
Windows D, folder view list view, FBCIT support, 3 of 14. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. Folder view list view, FBCIT support, 3 of 14. To move to items, use the arrow keys. To edit the selected item, press F2.
First of all, if I have to listen to that much information every time I press a key on my keyboard, I'm probably not going to be long for this world, right? So that was a whole lot of information. And the newer you are to using JAWS, the more daunting it seems. JAWS actually said that twice, and it has this annoying habit of doing that. And it has to do with whether information was refreshed on the screen before it finished saying the thing the first time. So you can't always stop JAWS from doing that, but you can hit the control key if you start to hear it repeating itself, and the control key will stop JAWS speech.
Start button. Folder view list view.
Okay, the first piece of that, folder view list view. Well, that's the kind of control that we're in. This is a folder view list view. What is that? Well, it's a list of folders and files. We see them everywhere on our computer, in lists of documents and lists of drives, in your inbox, your email inbox. There's folder view list views everywhere. Then it tells us
Folder view list view. FBCIT support.
Then it tells us FBCIT support. That's the actual icon that's there. So first it tells us the control, then it tells us the object that we're on inside of that.
Start folder view list view. FBCIT support. 3 of 14. To move.
Then it tells us 3 of 14, tells us the position it's in on the screen.
Start folder view list view. FBCIT support. 3 of 14. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
Then it tells us to move to items, use the arrow keys. So those are actually called tutor messages, where JAWS actually tells you what you can now do. So we can use our arrow keys to move around this list. And it also would tell us to edit this item, press F2. That's how you could actually rename this item here on the screen with a hotkey. That's a whole lot of information packed into one little icon, right? So I think our next order of priority is to help students, first of all, understand the vocabulary. What's a list view? And also to sort of start learning how to filter out what's important. Do I need to know that this is the third item out of 14 items in my list? Sometimes I might need to know that, but usually I don't need to. So at that point, I can start filtering things out. JAWS might actually give me more information than I need. So learning vocabulary and learning how to filter information is the next evolutionary step in teaching someone how to use JAWS. The thing about JAWS vocabulary is, as we go through here, we're going to open up the JAWS window, and I know it's
FBCIT
345. I think, is that true?
It's currently 343.
343. So we're coming up against it.
JAWS context menu.
I hear you.
Run from tray menu. To options submenu. Basics ... voices submenu. Voice adjustment ... Enter.
Here we are back in our
Leaving
voice adjustment dialog box. This is a pretty good example, right? So as we're tabbing through these different control elements, JAWS tells us what they are.
Delete profile button. To activate, press spacebar.
Delete profile button. Okay, it's a button and it deletes the profile, and so we can reasonably well be assured of what that button is going to do.
Enable additional voice profiles for installed Vocalizer Expressive 2 voices checkbox checked.
That was a mouthful, but that's a checkbox. If we don't know what a checkbox is, it doesn't really help that JAWS just told us we were on one, does it? I mean, we need to know that a checkbox is making a statement. And if we check that box, we're indicating the statement's true. And if we uncheck that box, we're kind of indicating that the statement is false. Otherwise, if JAWS can use all the appropriate vocabulary in the world, but if we don't know what it means, it's completely meaningless for us as JAWS users.
Synthesizer language, combo box, match JAWS UI language primary, 1 of 2.
Okay, synthesizer language combo box. That's great. What's a combo box? A combo box is a scrolling list of items that you can select by arrowing to them. Students don't like intrinsically know that stuff. So there's all kinds of these common kinds of controls that appear everywhere in Windows. This happens to be a dialog box, which is a window that contains a whole bunch of these different controls. But controls like this exist within toolbar ribbons as well, and in other windows like your Microsoft Outlook, or in PowerPoint, or in pretty much any application you visit. Even on the web, you're going to encounter controls that are like this. And if you don't know which control does which thing, you can't operate your computer.
Speak sample button. To voice adjust, combo box.
Here's another combo box.
Voice person, combo box.
Another one.
Voice, rate, 100. Left right slider.
Here's a slider, a left right slider. We need to know what that does. We
12, 11, 14.
change it with our arrow keys here.
Voice punctuation, combo box.
Another combo
Voice,
box.
volume, 70. Left right slider.
Another slider.
Voice spell rate change percent, edit, -20.
And this
Type
is an edit box. So if we want to change the value in here, we can't.
-20, -20, -20.
I'm pressing my arrow keys, nothing's happening. That's because an edit box is a kind of control in which you type. So if I wanted to change the value here, I would need to be able to type that in. So I need to know that an edit box is a box where we type.
Voice uppercase pitch change percent, edit.
There's
50.
another one.
OK button.
And finally, our OK button. I think, though, I've made the point, right? We want to know this vocabulary: buttons and split buttons and tree views and list views and checkboxes and all these different things. The more of those kinds of controls and the more of that vocabulary we can learn, the more familiar we'll be with what JAWS is saying when it starts saying it. And that starts building the bridge to being able to transfer skills. Well, I've never used this program before, but I absolutely know how to use checkboxes and buttons and edit boxes. So I see a bunch of those here. And even though I've never used this program before, I think I can figure it out because it has all the same controls that all my other applications that I've used before have. And we can start kind of building a little bit of confidence for our students by encouraging them to explore the controls in different programs. So the vocabulary is really that next piece, and then exposing students to situations where they're going to encounter all those wonderful things that you have been talking about. I know some people have to jump off at 3:45, which it just was a couple of minutes ago. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop
MLB
my
technology
screen share.
training micros.
And I'm going to go ahead and open it up now that we've had these 45 minutes to basically for me to talk to you. I'm wondering if there's any questions that you have or any particular areas of using JAWS and Fusion that you are confused about or that you have questions about. Even if we can't cover it in this training, I want to know what you guys want to know. And you can either raise your hand and Dustin will let me know, or you can just jump in. Or if you don't have any questions, then there's that too. One of the things about working with assistive technology that makes it difficult is that once you invoke assistive technology, it changes really fundamentally how you operate your computer. Most people learn to use their computer. I always tell my students this. Most people learn to use their computer by going to Best Buy and buying a computer and then bringing it home to their house and then pointing at all the little icons and clicking on them. And they don't really learn a lot about their computer because as a person that's not using assistive technology, you don't really have to learn that much about your computer to be able to perform the basics. You just click on stuff and type. But when you start adding assistive technology to the mix, the more knowledge you gain about your computer and the way that it works, and being able to know about your different control types and your different control states and different things like that, the more proficient you get to be at using the thing. So that's definitely something that, you know, you have to keep in mind when you add assistive technology into the mix. Do we have a completed statement from Garrett? All right. Thanks for that feedback. Anybody else have any questions? Incidentally, I would say the area of using your computer that changes the most when you're using assistive technology is browsing the web. One of these days, we're going to do a whole thing about browsing the web, because now we're actually getting into using some cursors that are created by the assistive technology that, if you don't have assistive technology, don't even exist. So at some point, we're going to do a little bit of training on working on the web with Fusion and JAWS. Any other questions I can answer for anyone before we wrap it up for today? All right. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I would encourage you all, please, to contact me at sleblond@seeitourway.org. That's SLEBLOND @seeitourway.org. If you have any questions about technology, any suggestions for future content for these videos, these interactive seminars, pre-recorded videos, or video shorts, I would really like to hear all your suggestions, and I'd like to start responding directly to people regarding their tech questions. So don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate all of you for coming, and I know that we will be seeing a lot of each other real soon.